Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something today that can move your life in a very positive direction, prevent you from many times getting emotionally hurt. And it's something that we don't do. We don't realize the importance of this one thing. And I'm talking about setting boundaries. When you were younger and you went bowling, you had the bumpers up, so you knew where to go. It was all there. How about in life? What boundaries have you set to make sure that others don't infiltrate your space, and I don't mean physically or just physically. I'm talking emotionally and all of that. We're going to dig into that today with a life coach, a counselor. She works with people to move their life forward, individuals, couples, on self-improvement, and so much more. And she is Dawn Manderfeld. She's with us. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Steve?
I am good. I'm good. The boundaries thing, I didn't realize I didn't have any or very few until I heard somebody like us talking about it. And then I started applying it to my life. And I don't know if it's a work in progress as life goes on, where you start realizing, well, I need a boundary there. I need a boundary there. Have you noticed that as life goes on, you start putting up these boundaries?
Yes. I think for me, it kind of started with some friendships that I had where I was realizing that I was giving, and they were just sucking all the life out of me and not giving anything back. And their expectations were just very unrealistic. And I just assumed for many years that was the way friendships were supposed to be, because that's who I was. I was a giver. I was compassionate. That was just a big part of who Dawn was. And then I realized that after time, when they take so much away from you, you realize that people with that temperament, you just don't even want to give to them anymore. You don't want to even be around them anymore. And that's not a good place to be either, because it doesn't make them a bad person. It's just there was no boundaries there for me to set and for me to share with them, hey, this is where we need to draw the line. And that was very, very hard for me to do.
I'm still working on it. And I believe it is a work in progress, because every relationship, every situation is always going to be different. So you start realizing these things. And especially, like you said, that's a big one. Whatever type of relationship it is, you're in it, you give, you care, you love. But then you start realizing, I'm not getting it back, or I'm not even getting appreciation. Not that you should do things looking for something in exchange, but there has to be some kind of exchange. And after a while, you realize, wait, it's one-sided. I'm putting up boundaries. I'm not doing it anymore. You ask me to do this or hang out or whatever. No, not unless I really want to. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It, like you said, it doesn't feel good after a while. It almost feels like you're cheating yourself after a while. How do you define boundaries? Maybe we should even start there for those that aren't really sure.
Setting a boundary is a mindset you have, what you're willing to accept and what you're willing not to accept. And a boundary, a lot of people think it's good just for yourself. A boundary is really good for every relationship that you have, because it's you being teachable, but it's also you being willing to teach others that you have to draw the line sometimes, especially when you work with a lot of people that are takers, used to being takers. They say, well, if you do this, I'll do that. But they're not really learning what makes you tick. You're doing everything in your power to make them feel good, because you know what they like, what makes them happy, and what kind of keeps this your relationship in a peaceful state. And that's not necessarily always good. So a boundary is realizing how to keep yourself in a peaceful state. Even though you may have to be determined and just, it may be hard for you to just say, no, I'm not going one step further. But in making that decision, you're going to realize that your body's more at peace. You're going to be a happier person. They may not like it at first, but if they truly respect your relationship, they will eventually listen, and they will know that, okay, this is your boundary. I'm not going to go past anymore. And if they keep doing it, then you may want to rethink that relationship truthfully.
I'm getting a download in my mind about the 5 love languages.
I was going to bring that up.
Get out of here. Seriously?
Yeah, because it is.
Right?
There are the 5 love languages are huge. And when you have a strong love language, like you're a giver, you're compassionate, you don't like confrontation, those are the people that really need to set boundaries. And those are the people that it is the hardest to set boundaries because they are a pleaser. And it's not necessarily always pleasing themselves. It's pleasing the other person.
So if you're not aware of the 5 love languages, it's things that are defined what you need in your life. Some of us need appreciation. Some of us like gifts. Some of us like service, or I forget what the term is, but things done for you.
Acts of service, acts of kindness.
Yeah. We all have them. I know what I need. And then when I'm not getting it back, but I'm giving everything to somebody else, I feel like something is missing. And then that's where the boundaries come up. Dawn, how do you deal with a situation where, let's say you're in a relationship, whether it's a romantic, close one, friendship, you know that it's not right for you. You don't want to end it. You think that maybe it can be worked on, but your boundaries are not being respected. And maybe you've said them in the past, but the other person's just not getting it. Where do you go with that? Where do you go? And a lot of us are afraid to let go.
You need to step back. You need to step back and you need to reevaluate who you are, your character is, and how much you're willing to let someone change you. Because staying in those relationships, if they're not listening and they're not changing, to at least come together in a middle to make you as happy as you make them, then you need to prioritize yourself. You really do. It's not like me take. When you're in a relationship like that, it becomes a burden, and you get to the point where you fall out of love of that relationship, even if it's with a friend. All of a sudden you get stressed knowing you're going to hang out with them, or you don't know how a weekend's going to go hanging out with them. And a lot of that is because they're not hearing you. They're not listening. So if you step back and you say, you know what, I need to back up for a little bit from this relationship. I need to not be with you. If you're in a romantic one, you need to step back and say, as of right now, I need to step back. I don't want to date you at this time. And don't be afraid to share. I'm trying to meet all of your needs, but you're not even listening or seeing the needs that I have. And therefore, I'm not at peace anymore with this relationship. I'm willing to work on it when you're willing to work on it. And that's the same as a friendship. Some friendships you need to back off of for a while. And then they may come back, but a lot of times they may not come back like were. And a lot of it is because they don't respect boundaries. They got used to you being one type of person, got used to you being everything that they needed. And now they're not going to have you. Maybe they'll realize what their loss is. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll just jump to another whole relationship and start it out the same. But in the long run, you really need to take care of your mind thoughts and where your heart is, because that's going to affect your health, your job, and every other relationship you're in. It's okay to step back. And it hurts. It hurts to do that.
Sure.
But it's okay to do that.
And that relationship may be holding you back from another or others. And I just got a thought too, that if your boundaries aren't being respected and you were clear about them, what you need, the relationship probably isn't what you think it is, or your role in the relationship isn't what they're thinking. So maybe they're using you for something and you don't even realize it when they're not respecting your boundaries, because that is the perfect world where as long as you're clear about it, that's the perfect relationship where you feel that, there's respect there. We're good. And it could be even something as simple as be on time, so many times, people show up late. That my boundary is just be on time. That's all, whatever it is. And that's not one of my boundaries, but it's appreciated. You know?
Yeah.
I'm in a men's group, and one of our values, and we define 5, and we all vote on them. And it's different tours of the group where every few months we're paired with different people, about 10 men. And the common one is respect others' time, because you feel disrespected. People show up late, and where was the game changer for you with boundaries? Is there a moment that you can think back to where it was like, this is not working. I got to fix this. I need a boundary. I need to set it.
My big aha moment was in my first marriage. But have to say, when things started changing drastically and quickly, and I did not understand why. I did not know that there were things going on behind the scenes. I was very devalued, and it became, these are my rules now. You will do this, 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 and this. And
your ex put those rules out?
Yes. All of a sudden, in our marriage, after 15 years, it just really started changing. And I remember one time asking him, I'm like, is there something that's happened? Is there something you're not happy about? Like, can we talk about this? And he goes, well, I don't know, but I'm tired of you not respecting how I want everything done. And it just kind of changed. The biggest thing is steak. He wanted steak on the grill, 3 minutes on one side, 6 on the other. Okay, so 3 on one, 6 on the other. I would bring it in. We'd be sitting at the table. And he would say, you didn't make this steak, right? He would stand up, he'd put his fist on the table, pick up the steak, throw it in the garbage, and say, in the freezer, I want another steak. Next time, you will do 3 minutes on one side and 6 on the other. That's how quickly it changed. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. You've always liked my cooking. It hasn't been bad before, but why now, all of a sudden, is this a big issue? And that's when I realized, wow, I didn't know at first how to deal with it. I didn't know how to set a boundary. And I know that for a lot of people, they may not understand what I just shared, but some will. It was as quick as that. I want this done specifically this way. Then I noticed if we went out to restaurants, he would always complain about the food, tell him to send it back, and then he'd want a new one. And it was just like,
who is this person?
For me, yeah, it was like, and even my kids would just look at him like, what was that all about? But, he didn't, I don't know if he was unable to give me the reason why he changed like that. I don't know. I know it may sound silly, but that was a drastic change for me because it was never that way before. And all of a sudden it just was boom there. And I just went, okay, I'm studying about boundaries. I'm learning about boundaries. Do I have a boundary here? Like, how do I set a boundary for this? And I'm going to be honest, all of you out there listening, it took me a while to really figure out how to set boundaries, what boundaries were necessary, and which ones I could probably fudge on every once in a while. But boundaries are that important because that like rocked my world. Because food is a big part of a relationship. And it was everything all of a sudden. So that was for me, Steve, when I realized, okay, boundaries are important. People have been talking to me about boundaries. Now I think I'm understanding. I need to set a boundary here about how he's going to treat me about food and when we go out in public. All of a sudden it started with that. And then the demands just started changing. Like, we're literally talking in a year's time. I did not know who I was married to.
I'm getting chills because I know exactly what you're talking about. Not the same situation, but one day you look and you say, who is this person? Well, that's not who I was with yesterday. What? Maybe it was, and there was things going on behind the scenes that, wasn't shared. 15 years on my side and the same, not the steak situation, but who is this person? That's a whole other podcast. But in your situation, that sounds like an emergency boundary that needed to go up in the steak situation. You were in a no-win, I believe, situation. And many would say,
I began to start thinking about me.
Right.
It's like, oh, how did I change all of a sudden to make him feel like this?
Right.
So then you start thinking, what did I do wrong? What do I need to fix? And it's really hard to set a boundary when you're in that state of such drastic changes so quickly. And with the personality that I had, it was like, did I say something that changed the course of a relationship? Did I do something? So then you start doubting a lot of things. And how do you fix it? You have to start with yourself.
Yeah. Yep, totally. And for me, a big one, and I'm always giving. I'm always, listening, helping people out. And then I realize a lot of times it doesn't come back my way. I'll listen, I'll help, I'll offer if asked advice. I don't just give it out because I just don't do that. But then I find that people weren't listening to me, and this is going back April or May of this year, and just a lot going on. And I was in between meetings. It was about 5:00, and I left here, and there's a small airport right around the corner, and just pulled up there, dashboard dining, just having a moment. Just not even look at the planes going off, just staring at a field. Just want some peace and quiet before I go back to life and another meeting. And I'm like, this is good. This is good. Nice breeze coming in. It's good. Phone starts ringing, and it's like, I pick it up. And I knew who it was, and I always know it's going to be a situation. Somebody needs something, advice, whatever it might be, or just a vent. All good. But I realized at that moment, what am I doing? That was my time, and I just gave it to somebody, and that was the boundary went up, and I was like, I will never do that again. That moment, those moments are mine. Don't you call me. I'm not picking up. I'm just not doing it. I need that time for me. Call it meditation. Call it me time. Self-care. And that's where I started realizing that. And there's somebody else I would do things for. I was in a relationship with somebody. I go, take care of their yard, help them out because I care, and they needed help. I wasn't getting anything back. So stop doing that. Boundaries, boundaries. But I really feel that because life is always changing, that the boundaries are always changing, or new ones are or you're crafting them in different ways. Because I don't think one size fits all. This boundary for this person, you can have your core boundaries, but it might not fit another situation. Would you say that that's somewhat accurate?
Very accurate. You do. As the relationship changes and grows, and as you are growing and changing, your boundaries do change. And when you're like in a long-term relationship and those boundaries change, if they're really in it with you, they'll agree with those boundaries, and you can talk about it, and you can say, this is why I'm now making this boundary for right now. This is how my life has changed. This is how work has changed. This is how family has changed. I really need this boundary right now. And you need to do that. I mean, as we are aging, as our kids are growing older, as we are dealing with different things with our parents even, and what they're going through, your boundaries do need to change. You do have core ones, and you have core boundaries that you need to have always. But as your life is changing and evolving, your boundaries are also going to, and they may not be long-term, can be short-term. You do need to be adding boundaries as time goes on, and depending on where your life is at right now for that moment.
That's a good point, because we're always evolving. Things are changing. You might not have realized something, 2 years ago, but now you're realizing it. So maybe that requires a boundary. Are boundaries things you want or don't want, or a combination of both?
A combination. Sometimes you have to set boundaries you don't want to set because of a fear you have that it's going to either ruin your relationship with that person, or you're going to have to explain why. And sometimes you don't always have an explanation. You just know it's necessary.
Yeah. Fear is the biggest thing. And I'm sure, in that situation that you described with your ex, this fear of you sabotaging the relationship by not honoring somebody else's wishes and or demands, or you're in a relationship, you don't want to be alone, but you're afraid to here we go again, put up the boundaries that are real to you, but you kind of it's almost as if you compromise yourself because of that fear. And it's a shame it has to be that way, but we all have it. We all have fear.
Yeah, and we all compromise. But how far are you willing to compromise? Like, how important is your mindset to you and your well-being? How far are you going to let somebody push your buttons?
Yeah. or not get what you need.
Yeah.
You know, could be in a okay situation, but are you fully fulfilled? Like it's all good. You never have to worry. You look forward to, you know, whether you're married to them or not, seeing them every day, doing things with them every day. And you said this before, and I think it's so real, that if the boundaries aren't being respected or you didn't set them, then resentment starts kicking in. And it's almost like a cancer in the relationship, to the point where then the negativity comes in. But ultimately, I guess it's on us. You know, here's my boundaries. This is what I need or don't need. And if I'm not getting that, then maybe that's the baseline for a change, whatever the change is going to be.
I know some people set boundaries so high and they wonder why they don't ever really have what they really want in a relationship or in their life. You know what? Recheck your boundaries. They may be unrealistic. Boundaries can be unrealistic also. So that's like a whole nother topic of unrealistic boundaries. But, you know, they're still necessary. But after, you know, if you're going 10 years and you have these boundaries and you're not finding what you want out of them,
I never thought about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Because then you hear from, you might hear a woman say, I don't know what it is. I can't meet a nice guy. I don't know what it is. So one of two things I believe are happening. You're attracting the wrong person because of the energy that you're putting out there and you haven't worked on yourself, or you put your expectations, i.e. boundaries, up too high and you just filtered, everybody out, including the good ones. We're out of time. Beautifully Broken is what you name your practice, and it's the best name ever. If somebody wants to talk more about this and connect with you about boundaries or anything, how do they do that?
You can go to my website, livingbb.org. Can email me at donrenee@livingbb.org, and my phone number is 952-200-1103.
Great talking with you today. I have one final thing to share with you. Medium well, but I don't really care. It could be medium, a little well done. It's fine too. It doesn't matter. Just saying.
So you won't throw it in the garbage and have it redone then?
Heck no. It's a steak. Always wonderful talking with you, Dawn. Thanks for being here.
Yes, you have a blessed week now.
You too. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.